Paul has asked me just to give a very brief reflection on the Stations of the Cross that we've just gone through together. The first thing I wanted to say was one of the things I absolutely love Lent. I've always loved Lent. I've always felt it was the best time ever. And the reason why I love Lent is because Lent every year gives me an opportunity once again to reflect upon what life really means. And for somebody who is pro-life, who's been pro-life for most of our life, that's the big thing that life means. The big thing that life means for me is the lesson that we learned in the catechism many millions of years ago when I was young, and many of you were probably young. And we learned the first part of the catechism, the first question: who made me? God made me. Why did God make me? To know, love, and serve him in this world, and then be forever happy with him in the next. And what I love about Lent is that Lent's a time where we are encouraged, in fact, we're called to stop and to take stock of our life. And I always try to take stock of my life in the light of that I am a child of God. And then the Stations of the Cross are a fantastic resource that we have in the church and that we've had for many years. And the Stations of the Cross say to us that this is all a process that we are going through in life. I'm one of these people, I like a beginning, I like a middle, and I like an end. And so the Stations of the Cross is a wonderful thing for me, because it starts off in that very dark moment where Jesus is condemned, where Jesus is accused and condemned, and his journey on the way of the cross starts. Now, obviously, his journey started long before that, but this particular bit calls us into real deep reflection on what do they teach us about Christ. And one of the things that I am always very inspired by it is that it teaches me that Christ, like me, has to go through a process in life. He went through this process of his way of the cross, and that all of us have to try and go through our way of the cross in union with him, so that we may come to that point of eternal happiness and eternal life with Jesus. But as we do that, as we walk through the stations of our life, we become acutely aware that Jesus, as he walked through the stations of his life, went through many of the things that we will go through, and he went through them with other people. So the stations are not just about Jesus, they're about all the people that he met along the way. And I always find that incredibly moving. I find it incredibly moving that Simon of Cyrene, who was just minding his own business, was suddenly called to help Jesus to carry his cross. And that's like us. We are just getting on with our lives, and then suddenly we see something so profound, like what's happening in abortion, that all of us who are here tonight, all of us at some point have decided that this is an issue that means something to us. And like Simon, we pick up our cross so that we can follow Jesus, so that we can help Jesus in the great mission that he gives us to be pro-life, because that's where the call to be pro-life comes from. It comes from Christ himself, it comes from God, it comes from the church, it comes from our baptism, it comes from everything that we are, it comes from our humanity, it comes from the fact that we want to know, to love, and to serve God. And then all the way through the stations, Jesus meets incredible people. I, again, always found it incredibly profound that Veronica would wipe the face of Jesus. It's an incredibly intimate thing to do, to go up and to wipe the face of somebody in pain, somebody who's there before us, broken, looking like a broken human body, a broken human being. And often in the pro-life movement, we have come across particularly women who have suffered from abortion, who are exactly that, who are broken human beings. And it's part of our call. And Veronica gives us the great example of the simplicity of what we do. You know, the simplicity. Sometimes people will say to me, oh, abortion, it's a very complicated issue. And actually, it's not. It's a very simple issue. Do you believe in the right to life of every human being? And what are you willing to do to help human beings, to help those mothers thinking of abortion, to help those mothers feeling pressured into abortion, to help those mothers who have had abortion? And it's very simple. We do what Veronica, we do what Simon did. We help to pick up their cross. We help to pick up the burden. We help to wipe their faces, wipe their tears away. And then we go on. And again, one of the amazing things is that Jesus falls. The Son of God, God made man, the person who created us all, in utter humility and in the depths of his humanity, he allows himself to fall 3 times, which again I think is an incredibly profound thing that the Stations teaches us, that he falls and he picks himself up and he goes on, and then he falls again and he picks himself up and he goes on, and then he falls a 3rd time and he picks himself up and he goes on. And that for me is an incredible thing, because for most of us, we don't like to show any signs of weakness. We don't like to show that there's anything in us that can fall, that there's anything in us that we're not in control of or in charge of. And yet Jesus shows us that even he in his humanity fell, but in his divinity, he was picked up by the God who loved him, by the God he is. And he kept going, he kept moving. And if there's one thing that the Stations teaches us in the pro-life movement, is to keep going, to keep going. We will suffer, we will have to pick up many crosses, we will have to deal with the inhumanity of many people. We will have to do with when Jesus is stripped of his garments. That's all about humiliation, that's all about bringing him down, that's all about trying to make him look foolish in front of this crowd. And that happens to us all the time in the pro-life movement. But what happens? Once they strip him off his garments, he willingly puts his arms out and allows himself to be nailed to that cross. Remember, this is Jesus Christ. This is the man who raised the dead. He could have done it differently, but he chose not to. And he chose not to do that. He chose to be nailed to that cross, and he chose to die in humiliation in the worst possible way, in a crucifixion, an unjust crucifixion. He was unjustly treated. And how many times do we feel that in the pro-life movement, that we are unjustly treated? And yet what did he do? Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And so often we see that in our fight in the pro-life struggle. We look at people and we think they must know. They must know. And they do. I do believe in their heart of hearts, human beings know that abortion is wrong. Human beings know it's not right, it's not the answer, that it is unjust. But in our frail human nature, in our sinfulness, we all turn away from things. We all look the other way. But we who believe in this cause, we look to Christ, crucified, died, buried, and then, as we all know, the final part of this way is when he is resurrected, when he comes back to save us, when he comes back to show us the way, when he comes back, gives us the church, gives us this consistent call to be pro-life. And so, as Jesus has come to an end, so I will come to an end too, as his way of the cross ended. Our way of the cross, the final thing, as in everything that we do, is we need to be reflecting upon this way of the cross and saying, Lord, help me. How can I help you to go to walk the way of the cross with you during these last few weeks in Lent? How can I, every week as I'm preparing for your passion and cross, to go through that with you, how can I become more committed to the pro-life movement? How can I reach out more to people who you are asking me to witness to evangelize to? So my final little prayer is, Lord, show us the way, continue to show us the way. So thank you for inviting me to do this. I'll keep you all in my prayers that we all have a fantastic Lent and the wonderful joys of Easter to come. So God bless. And over to Paul.
Thank you, Sister Roseann. Lots of words of encouragement, much to think on there as we keep going with this great mission, which is the pro-life movement of the church. So thank you, Sister, for that. Please join us next week when the reflection will come from Father Jonathan Whitworth, who is at the Diocese of Paisley. So we look forward to hearing from Father Jonathan then. For now, thank you for being with us tonight and see you next week. Good night.